Morning. Hi everyone. I'm just letting everyone in. I am recording this so it can go into the vault. So doesn't want to be on the video, please let me know. Or just don't put your video on. It's absolutely fine. I am going to mute you all as well because there's a bit of background noise going on. But obviously when we do the Q&A, you're all very welcome to unmute yourselves and jump in. So yeah, if anybody does want to come on video, you're very welcome. If you don't want to, totally understand. That's also fine. Okay, I'm going to kick off because we've only got half an hour this morning. Thank you very much for starting your day with me. It's really lovely of you. More people are coming in. This did sell out. Hi, Yvonne. Morning, my love. Hi, Alice. Hello. Hi, Julia. How nice to see some faces. It's lovely. Hey, Vanessa. Right. Okay, lovely. Right, let's get cracking. So we've only got half an hour. So the plan is I'm going to just quickly run through our sort of opinions about it, about Twitter and Twitter X and Threads, and then obviously answer any questions. The idea being that the first sort of 15 minutes, hopefully you actually get some information that maybe you didn't know about already. And maybe even I might answer some of the questions you've already got. You never know if I'm lucky. And if not, then you're very welcome then to spend the last 15 minutes asking questions. And if there are no other questions, then we'll wrap up early. You can go and get your cup of tea. So let's get cracking. So, okay, what's going on? It's been a very interesting month, I think, in the world of social media. And obviously social media is a massive part of what we do as authors and publishers. So it's really important that we understand, even if we aren't necessarily massively engaging in it, having that understanding will help empower us to know if it's right for us and what we should be doing. So I'm a big believer in just getting all the information. So the fact that you're here, I think you probably are also of that opinion. Get the information, then decide if it's right for you, okay? So firstly, obviously, as you will have heard, the X is formerly known as Twitter, as we call it, still functions the same. So Twitter changed its name to X and it still functions the same. There has been no changes to the actual functionality since that X change happened, okay? It was very much a rebranding, a name-only situation, but of course that doesn't take into consideration other things have been changing prior to that name change and no doubt are now going to change quite a lot. In our opinion, Twitter is still the publishing social media platform. We absolutely love Twitter here. And we think it's really important for authors and publishers to be on Twitter. You're going to find agents on there, publishers, readers, librarians, book prize judges, journalists, authors, booksellers. They are all on Twitter. Don't get me wrong, a lot of them are migrating over to Threads, but they are still keeping their Twitter account. And it is really quite easy to use, to be honest, once you've worked it out. So it's self-intuitive and understandable. So I do think it is something that I can see still working very well for authors. So if you've spent time building up any kind of Twitter presence and you're thinking, oh, well, that was a nice waste of time, it wasn't a waste of time. Twitter isn't going anywhere and you can still use it very much in the same way as you could before. Obviously, you know, Elon Musk, who is the owner now of Twitter, has decided to put his own stamp on it. The announcement about Twitter becoming X was made in the form of a tweet and by him, and it does appear that he did that before really even telling any of his team, because an email then went out to his team after that. Apparently, this is all, you know, reported, but allegedly an email went out to his team at Twitter saying this is the last email you're going to get from a Twitter address, which I think is really quite dramatic and funny. And if you've ever watched Succession, it gives me massive Succession vibes. The x.com domain now reverts to Twitter. So x.com was bought by him back about 2017 and it was the original PayPal. So he's the one who started up PayPal, and it's now been brought back to life and it directs people directly to Twitter. Some people were quite surprised that it happened when it did. I don't think anyone's surprised about the name necessarily. If you know anything about Elon Musk, he's even got a kid with X in their name. You know, a lot of his companies have had a product, or even they've been called X something, like SpaceX, for example. There's a Tesla X car and all this, so that he's very X related. We don't know his reasons for that. So we're not surprised by the X necessarily, but we are quite surprised as to when that happened. And I don't personally think it's much of a coincidence that this has happened at the same time as Threads has been launched. Now, Threads is obviously a competitor to Twitter, right? So that's why I think he's done that. Let me just get some more people in. So, what are the concerns around that sort of name change? Why are people getting their sort of their worry pants on about this? I would say it's primarily because people are just generally pretty bad at navigating change. So we are all very used to calling it Twitter, and now we've got to try and work out what it is next. We like to say we're going to tweet something, but what we're going to say now is it that we're going to X something. Like we don't really understand how we're going to use it at the moment in terms of our actual dialogue or in conversation. We don't get it, but the functionality, as I said at the beginning, still remains the same. The branding, I think, was very strong for Twitter, and so I am quite surprised that the branding has changed so dramatically in what seems to be a bit of a knee-jerk overnight situation, even down to there's rumours that he just got a logo from somebody on social media who offered it to him. Like, it all seems a little bit haphazard and a bit random. And obviously, being in the job of building up author brands, that's quite interesting to me, because you really need your team buy-in. Yvonne knows all about this. You really need your team buy-in. You need to get people behind you. You need to kind of change the culture of the organisation slightly before you embark on such a massive change, rather than just kind of throw it at the team overnight. So an interesting move. And obviously, he keeps on trying to mix things up. So on X, as we're calling it now, he seems to be trying to reward content creators more financially, but also in terms of accessibility to new technology and new different services that X will be providing, but also in terms of how quickly you can grow your network, that kind of thing. So we have seen that there's been suggestions on things like a limit on the number of people you could direct message, DM, if you're a non-paying user. We've seen a LinkedIn style hiring feature pop up on some verified accounts, and you can now subscribe to accounts. So if you look on X at Elon Musk, you'll see that he's got a subscribe button in the top right hand corner now. So basically what that means is that if you subscribe, you pay, I think it's like £5 a month, interesting, but it'd be per account. So you would pay to subscribe to his account for £5 a month, and you would get different content. So I think what they're trying to do is reward the people financially who get, who use Threads, who use Twitter X more, and who put more content on there and are prepared to do extra for their subscribers. Which is, again, an interesting way of doing it. How the financials will work, how much you would get as a content creator from that £5, for example, I have absolutely no idea at the moment. It's still very much early days on that one. So yeah, he's talking a lot about wanting content creators to be rewarded for their work. So obviously they're also wanting to reward themselves and make money out of this whole platform. So subscriptions, paying for verified service status, blah, 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 blah. It's all, of course, a way of monetizing X in a way that's never been done before. He has stated previously that he wants to turn it into the everything app. So it seems that it's likely that to get the most out of this platform, at some point you are going to be encouraged to put your hand in your pocket. At the moment, you can still use it for free. I don't know how long that will last for, which moves me on quite nicely to, we actually did pay for verified status from April when it was available, not because we were particularly bothered about the blue tick, because frankly the value of that is obviously going down now that anyone can just buy it rather than be verified and approved and go through quite a stringent approval process as it was to get that blue tick, that verified status. We have been paying, it's about £11 a month, or it's £114.99 a year. I don't recommend paying for a year because we have absolutely no idea what's going to happen in that year, and you might lose that money somehow. So we have been paying monthly for that. Honestly, what does it provide that we didn't have before? I would say probably the most notable thing is this editing ability that we have. There's an edit function. So within an hour of posting, it's possible to edit a post. And you can write much longer form posts, and it only shows the first 280 characters. Apart from that, apparently we'll be the first people to know if something happens. If we get access to some new technology or service, we'll be the first ones to know. I don't know, but for me, I think probably the most notable thing, like I say, is the editing button. So moving on to Threads quickly, because I'm running out of time. So this is basically Mark Zuckerberg's Twitter alternative, okay? So Mark Zuckerberg, the guy behind Facebook and Meta. It's not even a month old yet. Internally, it was known as Project 92, and this has been in development apparently since around January of this year. So this wasn't a knee-jerk, quick, let's just try and do something and get Twitter. This has been obviously in the makings for a while, and let's face it, we've been aware that there's a gap for a Twitter-like platform in Mark Zuckerberg's portfolio. We've been on it since day one. Oh, that's nice coming in. We've been on it since day one. Again, just trying to work out things for our clients and make sure that we know what's actually going on so we can advise people. It's changed quite a lot over the past 4 weeks, actually. So our strategy for using Threads really was firstly push out content on the regular, and use it as it's intended. In other words, use it for Threads style posts. So if you're not sure what a Threads post would be, a thread would be, it's basically where you share content such as lists, recommendations, longer form posts broken into different sections. It also means that you encourage discussion with others. So you pose a question and invite them to share their thoughts in the thread below. So Twitter was used to create thread style posts before. So it's quite clever because obviously on Twitter, you can create any kind of post you want as long as you start with some words. You can put pictures on there, you can do, you can add to one post, can't you? You can do multiple levels to the post, and that multiple levels function wasn't always around on Twitter. It is a relatively new thing, and so they've taken the success of that and popularity of that and turned it into threads. So it's really about trying to encourage other people to join in on your posts, or to, like I say, come up with like, 5 things I've noticed about Threads, boom, 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 and you would put them in the so to just literally, you just got to double tap the enter button to go down to the next thread. It's really super easy. But as we've seen, for example, with Clubhouse during lockdown, I don't know if anybody was on Clubhouse. I was on it for a bit, and again, researching, but people really quite do like to go on to these new things and get involved and be quite buzzy on them. And there is usually a lot of interest and sign-ups and action in the first few months, and then it fades. The meteoric rise of Threads, so therefore, isn't unprecedented and is quite normal. At the moment, numbers are obviously not accurate, but we're looking at over 100 million people on there, which is massive. The first day it was like 22,000 or something. On the first day there was hardly anyone on there basically, and now there's millions and millions. And I'm not surprised by that, again, because at a time when Twitter X is being a bit confusing and people are sort of not sure what's going on, it does seem like a very good time to jump over to Threads and give that a go. The platform hasn't been left to stagnate. I'm quite impressed by the amount of updates that they've done. I'm not a Meta fan, by the way. I actually detest Facebook, so this is not an advert for Meta. But there was just a followers tab, so you could see who was following you, but you couldn't see who they were following, and that's been added. So there's a following and a followers. At the beginning as well, it was quite interesting because there was such like a For You page, and it was basically anyone who was on there. Because it was a small number of people, it was anyone who was on there. You were seeing content from everyone, even if you weren't following them or connected to them, which I didn't particularly like, but I understood the reasons for them doing that was because it had just started. That has now been removed, and you can just chronologically see the posts from the people that you're following. And yeah, there's been some other bits and bobs that they've done to kind of like make it work better. For example, on the second day of us having it, we lost our Instagram account entirely, that was connected to it. It was then revived, but you can imagine there are some teething problems with some of these things. So if you haven't got a Threads account, how do you set it up? It's really pretty easy. You do need to have an Instagram account though. So if you don't have an Instagram account and you don't want to have an Instagram account, you still need to set up an Instagram account to be able to get a Threads account, okay? It doesn't mean you have to populate that Instagram account with any content, but you will need to have your, to log in, you have to log into Instagram, you'll have to have your username, you have to have a profile, a bio, a picture, profile picture, that sort of stuff. You will need to have that to be able to get a Threads account, because it's all part of the same universe, isn't it? So or Fediverse as they call it. So you will have to do that. If you have an Instagram account, it's super easy because you just basically can go straight on to join Threads via Instagram. It's that easy. They transfer everything over. If you have a phone, you can download the Threads app. It isn't available on a desktop yet to engage with. You can see people's profiles and you can see content on Threads on your computer screen, but you can't actually engage with them or log in at the moment. Again, I'm sure that is going to change pretty soon, just like you can do on Twitter, you can do it on your phone, you can do it on your computer, you can do it pretty much wherever you want. So that will change, no doubt. But at the moment, this is where it is. I'm going to give you an example of in the chat of my one so that you can see it, and you can click on it if you want to. So let me just get that up. And yeah, if you have a look at it on your phone versus having a look at it on your computer, you'll see it's the same content, but you can't do anything with it on the computer. So very quickly, a few tips in terms of how to get the best out of Threads when you're on there. So I wouldn't just rely on Instagram transporting your connections over to Threads. So what happens is, if you've already got an Instagram account, what we're seeing is when somebody that we're following on Instagram joins Threads, it is notifying us on our Threads app, and we are automatically then following them. So basically, if you're following someone on Instagram, they join Threads, you automatically follow them. You can change all these settings in notifications, and I wouldn't. I think it's a good idea. If you follow them on Instagram, it kind of makes sense that you then follow them on Threads, because the idea obviously is that you're growing from scratch. But also, you don't have to just rely on that sort of quite, I would say, lazy way of getting followers. You can proactively follow over 1,000 people, and there is no problem with doing that. We've done it, and it's worked as a strategy very well. You do have to stagger the follow requests over a few days. You aren't going to be able to follow 1,000 people in one go, sit down with a cup of tea for 2 hours and do it. That is not going to be how it works. They will make sure that you're staggering it, because otherwise they think that you're spamming everyone. And there are other things you can do that will really help you feel like you're taking a bit more control. Very interesting one is, again, I think Yvonne will find quite interesting, is this idea of taking a break. So there is a setting in settings you can go to where you can put a reminder to take a break when you spend 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or never on Threads. Now, I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that on social media before. I think that's a really interesting addition to a social media platform. I know most of us are capable of doing that, but sometimes you do fall down a rabbit hole and realise that you have spent half an hour on researching something on Twitter, for example. So I quite like that function. Then you can take more control as well. So you can, when you're on the homepage, when you're looking at your stream of people that you're following and their content, if somebody's annoying you or you just don't want to see them anymore, or their content's not appropriate for you, you can do the usual unfollow, but you can also mute and hide. So if somebody's just kind of slightly annoying you, but their content maybe is a bit, I don't know, maybe it's triggering you that day, I don't know, whatever context you've got it in, you can just mute them. They won't know that you've unfollowed them, basically. So it won't be like a direct kind of, ooh, I don't want to follow you back. I don't want to follow you, because that can cause, sometimes in business, that can cause problems. But you can just mute them or you can hide them. You can also report accounts, obviously, like you can on pretty much everything else. So don't put up with content that you don't want, basically. You can have a private profile, so if you go into settings and then privacy, but that's not something I recommend that you do if you're using it to build your author brand, because that seems a bit self-defeating. You can also decide who you'll allow to @mention you in their posts. So you can allow everyone to @mention you, which means they'll @ and then put your handle in. You will then get notified and you're linked to their post. So you can have everyone, profiles that you follow, or no one. So again, a bit more control over who's actually able to get you involved in their own posting. Again, personally, I think whilst you're building an author brand, we recommend keeping that to everyone, but that's really up to you, and it depends, I guess, on the sorts of people that you're connected to. When it comes to the sorts of replies you're getting, again, if you go to settings and then notifications, you can choose who you interact with. For example, are you open to likes, replies, mentions, quotes, and reposts on your posts from everyone, or do you only want it to be from people that you follow? So there's quite a lot of interactivity available. For example, the quotes and the reposts and things, but you get to choose with each one. So that's not a catch-all, yes, everyone can do everything. It's like each one. So can everyone like your post? I would probably say yes to that one. Replies, I would personally also say yes to that one. Mentions, I would probably say everyone for that one. But you might want to not want everyone to be able to repost your content. That's just have a think about what you feel comfortable with. At the moment, we have it on everyone for everything. Because, like I say, it was very early days at the beginning. There wasn't that many people on there. If it starts getting massive and we get lots of randoms on there, we probably will start being a bit pickier with how we're allowing people to interact with our content. There are other ways as well to find people. So you can go to settings and then you can follow invite friends from Instagram, which, like I say, is quite normal. You can invite friends from WhatsApp, so they connect them to your phone WhatsApp list. You can invite via SMS, which again will allow them access to your phone list, which again, it's up to you. This is obviously whether you want them to do that or not. And then via email, which is just a link. Personally, I don't really want anyone being able to access my full, contacts list, because my phone is my work phone and my personal phone. So I personally prefer to go through and look for the people that I want to connect with. And as the advice I always give with Twitter, it's exactly the same for Threads. Go to somebody's account that you think is like you or has people that are like you in their audience, and then follow the people that they're following, and have a look at their followers list as well, which you can do both of now on Threads that you couldn't do a couple of weeks ago. How do you interact with people's posts? There's a little heart under the post, which is just, as you can imagine, the like. It's really very similar to everything else. You can comment, obviously, by adding to the thread, by just clicking on the little speech bubble under the post. You can repost with the arrow symbol, the sort of arrow that kind of goes like that. It's all so similar. You're gonna, if you've used any other platform, it's gonna feel very. Oh, my cat just comes in. Hello. If you use any other social media platform, it's going to feel very similar to those. Nothing's particularly groundbreaking. What's really cool is that you can share posts very easily. There's like a little kind of like an arrow type thing like that. And you can just share it then. But what's interesting, you can share it to your story on Instagram directly. You can share it to Twitter. You can actually tweet, and you can share it to your feed on Twitter. So there's loads of on Instagram. Sorry, it's all very connected. I thought it was really interesting that it connects with Twitter as well, though. I assumed it would connect with Instagram because it's all part of the same family, but the fact that it does that as well is very interesting to me. I'm a social media geek, as you can tell. And you can change your profile if you want. So basically, it takes over everything from Instagram. So we kept the photo, but you can change that. But we changed the profile bio because we want the Threads account to be just from me, whereas the Twitter account is from my whole team. So my whole team has access to Twitter. So with you, if it's just you doing it, then you probably would just keep the same over each one. And what's also really interesting is that you can add into the post itself a link, a live link, and it brings over a picture from if that's associated to that link, which I think is a big thing, because obviously that is something that you can't do in Instagram. So if you put a link into your post in Instagram, it's not a live link, it's not a clickable link, you can't do anything about that. So I've got massively gone over. I realise I have way more to share with you than I even thought. We have had a couple of questions through already. If you've got any more, you can put them into the chat, or you can just unmute yourself and just speak to me like a human. So we have one question, which is, has Twitter's app picture changed? So yes, it took a while to go through, but now you should see an X instead of the bird. If it hasn't shown yet, then it might be that you just need to switch your phone on and off or whatever, but it will eventually happen. There's not really any way around that, and everything is going to be X related. So yeah, it's a new normal for everybody. Another question is, do you think Threads will become more popular than Twitter? I think it really depends on what will happen with Twitter and where Elon Musk goes with it. For me, there's always a danger of trying to be all things to all people, and I don't think that's the right strategy for anything in business or life. So my worry that he's trying to be the everything app means that he's just going to lose sight of the actual really good bits about Twitter, which they have at Threads. So potentially the people will go to Threads for the bits that they really like to Twitter, but we'll see what happens. I don't really have a crystal ball on that one, but I do think Threads has the potential to do very well. Yeah. So another question is about hashtags. So so far they're struggling to get any kind of hashtag usage going on. It's quite difficult to search for content on Threads at the moment. But again, you've got to bear in mind we are still not even a month into this. It launched officially on the 6th of July. They did a trial launch on the 5th of July, so we're not even a month yet. They will inevitably start. I mean, every platform now uses hashtags, even Facebook. So I would imagine that they have the functionality, and B, the desire to do so. So yes, I think they will. But at the moment, no hashtags. Just the whole the search thing is quite random at the moment on Threads. I've tried it. I've tried different searches, and basically with or without the hashtag, it produces the same sorts of results. Has anybody got any questions?
Yeah, hi Helen. Just one question from me, kind of related to that. I saw your note and I even looked it up. How can I try to curate my Threads account a bit more to show? I mean, albeit I have very few I'm following few accounts and I have few followers, but it still seems to be showing me all sorts of content. I'm just wondering how it's curating it. It's not terrible content, but I'm not getting writing related news only and that kind of thing.
Have you gone to your settings and changed all of that and made it so that you're only seeing content from the people that you follow?
I haven't done it for all because it seemed very restrictive, but maybe that would be a place to start.
I would start there, see how it changes it, because when I was first on it, the Only For You page was obviously quite random because it was a small number of people and it was all very much, oh, my first post, you know, and it's just basically hundreds of those. Now it's evolved a bit. I was okay with the Only For You page for a bit, and then I thought, hang on a minute, it's getting too many people now, and it's now starting to be quite random. So I changed the settings to only show the stuff chronologically of the people that I'm following.
Okay.
Feels much more like Twitter then.
Okay, great. I'll try that. Thanks.
Right, somebody's just said something. Happened to me too. I get more showing than the followers I follow. Yeah. So if you have a play around, so basically when you first join, it depends on when you first join Threads, I think, because obviously because we joined right at the beginning, our experience will be slightly different to yours if you're joining it now or have joined it in the past sort of week or 2 weeks. That's how quickly it's moving. So when we first went on, there wasn't as many options on the notifications. Now, if you go onto settings, you can really change things quite a lot and have, like I say, I feel like quite a lot more control than I've seen in other platforms as to what you want to see. The other thing is, do feel free to use that hide and mute button. You know, if you're seeing stuff on there that you don't really want to see, I think if you start using that more, because they're very clever people, these techie people, aren't they? They're gonna track all these different things. If you're hiding a certain type of content, when it gets up to speed, it will stop showing you that kind of content because it doesn't want you to switch off, remember. It wants you to stay engaged and to come back. It doesn't want you to stay on there for a long time, actually, but what it does want you to do is to come back on a daily basis. So let's have a look. Do we think Threads is here to stay? I don't want to create an Instagram if it is just temporary. I feel like we're just chasing a new social media channel every month. If you feel like that, Sarah, I would say you should do what makes you feel comfortable because there is absolutely no rules around social media. It's a bit like if you go into a party, into a room, and you're at a party, and you're deciding which group to go and talk to. You don't have to go and talk to all the groups. There are no rules that you have to go and be the life and soul of the entire party and be friends with everybody and talk to everybody. Some people love that. Some people thrive on that, and therefore they are the ones that are on all the social medias. That's kind of the best way I can describe it, really. If you're the sort of person who would go into a party and just sit in the corner and not talk to anyone, then you probably won't enjoy social media. If you're the sort of person who likes to sort of stick to a group and know what you're doing and know who's in your group, then again, you probably aren't going to want to try too many different social media platforms. Clubhouse, for example, was, I think, a kind of a... It exploded and it just flopped, in my opinion. I don't think it's going to be like this because of the nature of the type of content that is being put out. It's all down to the type of content. With that type of content, for me, and I think for a lot of people, listening to somebody talking all the time is too intrusive. For me, I didn't like it that much. I much prefer words, obviously, that's why I do what I do, and just being able to engage like that. So I do genuinely think that Threads will work because it's giving people what they want and what Twitter is kind of steering away from. dare I say. Do we know who made Threads? Yes, so Threads is basically exactly the same company as Facebook and Instagram, and it's Meta. So it's you know, if you've got a VR headset, it's them. They're creating something called the Fediverse, and it's basically going to be loads of stuff all connected. So yeah, we are getting to that more connected state of social media now, which has obviously its positives and its negatives, which we can go into another time. I don't know what the age rating for Threads is. That's a really good question. I have no idea. So obviously most of these social medias are like 14, I believe. So I would imagine it would be the same thing. And what's the difference between mute and hide? So I think I don't know. I've been trying it out and trying to work out the same thing. I think mute and hide have different time lengths. That's what I think. But again, I'm still researching that. I've tried it on different accounts and I've tried doing different things, but I can definitely keep you updated on any more findings that I get. It's changing so fast all the time. So it's difficult to really know, but the fact they've got both is quite interesting, isn't it? I think they must have an aim for it to have different functionality at some point. Does anyone have any other questions? Is anyone on Threads yet? Joelle, Alice? Otherwise, I don't think so. Okay, so what I would say is, if you don't have an Instagram account, but you're open to just opening one to just to try it out, it probably is worth having a go. Because I do think that even if you just keep so if you're an author, for example, and you want to sort of own your own name, do you know what I mean? I think it's worth it for that reason, because you're owning that handle then. You don't really want someone else coming along and taking it if you do decide down the line you do want it. So I think it's worth just having it. You don't have to actually use it. As far as I'm aware, there's no kind of like, you know, you're going to be deactivated after 2 weeks if you haven't used, you know, I don't think there's any of that jazz going on. So you could just do it anyway. You might find you love it. A lot of the people we work with who have never been on social media before, ever, when they have a couple of power hours with us, with Rachel, our social media manager, and she kind of really shows them exactly how it works and what sort of content they can post and stuff. They go off, they do it for a few weeks, they come back to her and they say, oh my God, I'm loving this is brilliant. And so most of them do, like 95% of them do come back and say they like it. That's what I think about Twitter, is that it is more for writers, I think, whereas obviously Instagram is much more visual. So yeah, do you post videos on Threads? Yes, you can post. As far as I'm aware, you can. I don't know if I actually have yet, though. I think I have. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can post videos on there. So yeah, but keep an eye on it, because it keeps changing. Like I say, in the past month, it's changed massively. The way it looks, just the For You page only, to now having this extra following and followers tab. So it's it's got elements of different types of social media platforms, but the main social media platform that it's mimicking is Twitter. And I think that's a very clever idea, considering Twitter's basically in this weird phase at the moment. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully that was. I'm not like the Threads and Twitter expert. I'm just letting you know what I've seen from being on it for a while. So hopefully that's all really helpful. And if not, if you've got any other questions, or if you spot something when you go on it and you're not sure, then you're very welcome. You've got my email address. You're very welcome to email. And yeah, thank you very much. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
If you have while you're here, if you have any other thoughts on sort of areas that you don't really understand, or stuff that you've noticed people talking about, don't think you're being daft by asking, because if you're thinking it, I guarantee you that other people will also be thinking it. So, and I'm happy to do more of these quick kind of first thing in the morning sessions. So if you think of anything, just email me. Like I say, I bet you won't be the only one, and I can, if I'm able to give some opinion on it, then I certainly will do. And I'll just keep an eye on our social media, and we'll let you know when the next one happens. But yeah, very open to your feedback, and if you've got anything, happy to kind of do the research and try and help.
Ellen, just one point really quickly. I've noticed that there seems to be some kind of flow from Twitter to Threads, because it's suggesting accounts I have on Twitter. And I know some people originally were afraid of privacy issues, but I think they just have access to everything you look at because they just know what Twitter accounts you follow and suggest them on Threads. So just something, I mean, that's the reason I didn't join immediately, but I have since, so just something to be aware of.
Yeah, and do you know what? I think that's the same with any kind of, now they're all so connected. I genuinely think that if you're going into this, you're kind of going into it knowing that that's how it is now. And I think it is, and that's a very personal, moral, ethical decision you have to make yourself. That's why I would never say you must get on this. I still believe that Twitter at the moment is the best social media platform for authors to be on, but I am seeing a lot of migration over to Threads. I am also seeing duplication of content because you can post on Threads and then obviously share straight to Twitter. So what I am seeing on Twitter is a lot of people literally have just shared their posts from Threads. Eventually, I'm guessing that will probably mean that Twitter then dies out because the actual Twitter logins aren't happening as much. But that would take a huge shift if for that to actually have any major impact on Twitter. That would take a lot of people doing that style of posting. And I don't think we're there yet or anywhere near.
Thanks.
Well, I'm getting some good feedback, so that's really good. Thank you very much. And yeah, like I say, email me or just DM me or whatever. If you see something that you're thinking, what on earth is this? What are they talking about? Apparently I'm supposed to be doing this or the other. Let me know and I will give you time for another Zoom session. Okay, everyone, thank you very much. And I will
Thank you.
see you all again. Bye.
Thanks, Helen. Bye, everyone.
Bye.